Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Hello, that would be me. Do you know which president was elected to 4 terms? That would be me, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I was born January 30th, 1882, near Hyde Park, New York. My mother came from a merchant and shipping family, and my father was a wealthy landowner, a railroad vice president, and a diplomat of the president at the time, Grover Cleveland. When I was young, I learned to sail on my father's ship, the Half Moon, horse ride on my pony Debbie, and hunt birds with a shotgun I got for my birthday. That was my childhood. For learning or education, I was taught at home until I was 14 when I went to Groton Preparatory School in Massachusetts. I was bad at sports, but I knew I would find something important I could do well. In 1900, I went to Harvard, where I studied history, economics, languages, and science. Then I found out what I was good at, for I became editor of the Crimson, the Harvard newspaper. Economics and writing were important for my future work. I advanced quickly in politics for my work. First, I was elected to be a senator from New York. Second, I became Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Next, I was elected governor of New York, and then in 1932, I was elected President of the United States. By the time I was elected, the Great Depression had gotten very bad. I made a New Deal that greatly improved the economic crisis that was going on. After I was re-elected, World War II started in Europe, and I began sending aid to Great Britain. Then I got a puppy named Fala, right here, woof, woof. And I took him when I traveled on a trip to meet Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Great Britain, to create the Atlantic Charter. Woof, woof, woof. Oh yes, Fala, no, you were naughty. I meant that dogs can't write, so I did it with Prime Minister, not with Fala. In the charter, we agreed to work to defeat the Nazis and defend democracy. The Japanese bombed Pearl during my 3rd term as president in 1941. And I led the United States into the war. 3 years later, in 1944, I was elected to a 4th term. And as for my family, I had a house in Hyde Park and one in New York. I married Eleanor in 1905, and in the next 10 years, we had 6 children whom I called the Chicks. By the time I was re-elected president in 1936, I had 2 grandchildren, who were Sissy and Buzzy, who would just come into my room every morning and jump on my stomach with yips of joy, which I loved, of course. As for my major achievements, I had many of them that made me famous. I fought polio and got back the use of my legs. I was elected governor in New York twice, and then elected president in 1932. After that, I was re-elected. Then I solved the bank crisis with work relief and a New Deal. After that, I was re-elected twice, drew off the Atlantic Charter with the Prime Minister of Britain, Winston Churchill, and was re-elected for a 4th term. But I had many major problems I overcame during my life that helped make me famous. In 1921, I was stricken with polio, but I got back the use of my legs. In my 1st term as governor, the U.S. fell into the Great Depression, but while I was president, I fixed that. In December 1939, World War II started, and on December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. In the end, I had solved many major problems and helped win the war. As for my character traits, there were 3 traits that helped me be a great president. I was very brave. When one of my companions was shot, I didn't go to safety, but took him to the hospital. It was pretty easy. I was persistent too. When I fought polio, as much effort as it took me, I kept trying to fight it. I was funny too. When people made mean false stories about me, I laughed and made jokes out of them. One of these false stories was one about Fala going on a trip and getting lost with a tremendous cost to taxpayers since they had to rescue them with a destroyer. Woof, woof. And I said, but Fala, it's okay if you say mean things about me, but Fala resents it. Woof. He hasn't been the same dog since. Woof, woof.